Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 346. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm your host, Todd Oxtra, joined by my companion, Charlie Carden.
Quasi-faithful companion.
Absolutely.
What's going on?
Yes, yeah. Well, we try to keep it faithful at least as much as possible. We don't cheat on each other a lot, so it's
It's a open-ish relationship.
Pauly podcast this, I guess you'd call it.
Polycythemia? Isn't that the thing where never mind. Okay. But yeah, it's we're here. We're doing this thing. We're just about to kiss 350. That's a big number. Back in the 80s in 350 you get these big, like, the comic was thick enough that it had a spine, that it had like the name of it on the spine, like you could put it on a bookshelf. But you would never do that because it would not keep.
So essentially, if we do the numbers, 52 weeks in a year times 7, if you did every week, you'd be at like 360 would be, essentially 7 years. But we're kind of off and everything's kind of funky, but we've been doing it at least for 7 years. And the numbers are kind of like, it's nice to hit those numbers. Like we talked about, last episode, 345 for some reason was a huge number for Hulk, which made no sense, but it is what it is. Well, you know what? We'll stick with the we usually stick with the 50s as our kind of milestone, which is perfectly fine. Because now this will be our 7th 50. So that's quite a number of 50s.
Okay, very good. So, you have a comic here, and I do. I feel like I never missed a Spider-Man appearance back in the, in the early '90s. But it was actually no. This is more the late '90s. I can tell just by the style of the letterbox, because like the numbering this was kind of the ones where you bought it and it said the world's greatest comics. When you would unfold it, had like a gatefold on the inside that would give you, here's all the characters in the book. Here's stuff that happened in the last 5 issues or whatever. So this definitely gets that vibe. So you have Marrow. Is Marrow new? It says with X-Men,
so there was a era of X-Men, and this launched 1997. So this was when Todd was getting back into comics because I was at Michigan State, and ultimately I could go to a comic book store on campus versus driving 20 minutes to Flint, Michigan.
We went to that store because you and I were roommates at the time. We went to that store on Michigan Avenue, Capital City Comics or something, and I know for a fact that dude, he was like this dude with a beard and like he was skinny, long hair. He died.
No, that's not the right. I never went to Capital City Comics, Charlie. I went there maybe once. I was always the guy that went to the shop on the corner on Grand River by Pinball Pete's, that area. That was the shop I always went to.
But that shop I'm talking about, that's where the Mego Klingon came from. We definitely went there.
Once. I went there once. I never went to that shop. It was a hole in the wall. It was a urine trap.
Well, I was gonna say the guy died, so you didn't have to trample on his memory. But what I'm saying is that
he is the comic book guy for what comic book shops are thought of in the past.
But what I was gonna say was when he passed away, his sister took over his collection, and she's still selling off his collection like 15 years later. So, and his pictures on the wall of her shop, and it's a nice legacy. My guy didn't have to turn it into all that.
Well, you completely pivoted for like that had nothing to do with this. So I don't know how we got there, but I was going to talk about this comic book. So what I was going to say, this was 1997. I was back into comic books going every week. So this was the era that I really loved with X-Men. I think I got back around 280 was when I got back into X-Men. So you could see where we're at. This was a great creative time when, Age of Apocalypse. This follows that, obviously. This was Scott Lobdell was kind of took over for Chris Claremont in a way, the X-Men franchise. So he kind of rebooted some things. And we had basically these new X-Men that popped up. We had Marrow. We have a few other characters, but nobody really stuck. I mean, I would say maybe a few, but, it was also the era of the next generation next. So it was a very weird time, but it was also kind of felt like this was their opportunity to bring in a lot of new characters and kind of start fresh because the X-Men were kind of down for the count, brought in some mutants to take on. And this one also covered with Marrow on the cover, Operation Zero Tolerance. This was an anti-mutant task force again, but was led by a character named Bastion, which the long flim flam was he essentially was Nimrod, a sentinel from the future who could be different things. So kind of a weird take, but very cool reinvention. And Joe Madeira, who was the cover artist, he kind of reinvented it. Just brought a lot of life to the X-Men, really gave a very lively take, almost the anime manga-esque look, which I absolutely loved to pieces. So this was a great era of X-Men, which led to then I would say tougher times, but then led to the Grant Morrison era, which I loved to pieces. So there you go.
I'm just looking at the cover box, and it's a weird lineup. So it's obviously Gambit and Rogue, which was very pivotal to the 90s X-Men. Beast looks like he lost the bottle of gel. And then who's the guy to his right, and is that supposed to be Magneto in the middle?
So Joseph is in the middle. That is kind of a long story, but it was supposed to be Magneto, like that had lost his memory. Very weird storyline. Then the guy in the bottom is Bishop.
Gotcha. Okay, but his face looks weird. I don't know. Maybe it's too small.
Well, you can see a little M over his eye. So that was his trademark look. And so at one point, I think he had dreads. At one point, he didn't. But once again, he was brought in, I think, around 270-ish. In mutant from his future was destroyed, so he came to our present to take out Cable.
I see it now. Yeah. He was because it's so small, it looked weird. But anyway. Fascinating stuff. The 90s, the dream of the 90s is alive in Portland or whatever. But we got to go a little further south from Portland. We got to get back to LA at the corner of Hollywood and Vine to catch up with Madam Webb, our senior news correspondent, for her rumors and news. So without further delay, Madam Webb, take it away.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. Oh, my goodness, Madam Webb. The football season's coming to an end for high school teams. So your opportunities to get back there and run for the cheerleading presidency are running out. Oh, my goodness. Yes, you might have your old pom-poms, although they have probably turned to dust.
Oh, boof. First up, we got some gems here this week, but we got, I'll tell you, as someone who is not the most ardent fan of the show, this looks pretty sweet. So why don't you tell me about this trailer for the house that's right next to Big Mama's house? What is it called again?
The House of the Dragon. Yes, this is going to be an interesting take because this will challenge all of my thoughts on prequels, which is Game of Thrones 200 years before. So that's quite a big gap. This is like 200 years. I mean, how many generations is that, Charlie? Is a generation 20 years?
Yeah, exactly. So 10 generations.
10 generations. So that's a lot. So this is really all about House Targaryen.
It's exactly what I know you've been angling for a long time out of Star Wars, KOTOR. KOTOR!
Absolutely. Get out of the way of, hey, that's my brother's friend's sister's cousin. I know him. Let's make him important again, 30 years before. No, I think you have to go way back to introduce to a world that's different than what we know, but it informs us of where we're going. But everybody's dead, so yes, you could say there's no stakes, but each of these characters has a path to play out that will remake the world as how we know it. And so I think this is kind of cool if it's done well. The hard part about this with Game of Thrones, I mean, it's going to be there's really no written word. Like George R. Martin wrote Game of Thrones, I think the first 5 seasons, they pulled directly from that source material. Then he said, here's an outline. And then just try to do a good job. And they're okay.
I'm going to Disney World. Yeah, he's not ever really going to finish. And he's no spring chicken. So the chance of him actually finishing Game of Thrones at all seems more and more, remote as time goes by, right?
I think he's been working on the last book for 14 years. So that just tells you his pacing is a little bit off.
Yeah, wouldn't you just love to have a day job like that? Make you feel all warm and fuzzy inside.
How you doing, George? Row sentence.
I'm not, so I'm okay. But yeah, this looks fantastic. You got Matt Smith, who is, of course, I was going to call him James Bond. He's not James Bond. He's one of the Doctor Who. But does that man just look more gaunt as time goes by? What do they call that? What did they call that back in the 70s? Heroin chic?
Yeah, Lith, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. He's going to be Prince Daemon Targaryen. So, everybody's got, those albinos are back in fashion for the show. It's based on Fire and Blood, apparently, which apparently they took parts of that. It must have been flashbacks and things like that, the structure, but it's a book. So essentially, we'll see how much it gets, fleshed out. But if it's Game of Thrones, HBO's like, crap, we want to make this like 8 seasons long. So I'm like, stretching. I don't know how they do it.
But people like it, and we're making those big endorsement deals. Starbucks is back in for this one.
Yeah. So, this is going to be very interesting to see if they can nail it. But we are going to get a lot of interesting cast members and hopefully see lots of different parts of the whole region and delve more into those things versus, and this is all really a lot of new material for everybody versus just like how hardcore, like I read all the books and I already know everything and why did they change it versus this is all new for us. So hopefully this is something that's engaging and well done. And I'm not sure I don't know who the showrunners are, but they've got a hard road ahead to come after something as big as Game of Thrones. And as it was one of the last appointment shows I think we all had where it's like you watched on Sunday.
Right, and it ended in a very controversial fashion.
Absolutely.
People were really burned up about the ending, and I guess I won't say that I didn't have a dog in the fight. I watched the last few seasons like everybody else, and I didn't have major compunctions about how it ended. I thought it's a story and it ends, so it's okay with me. But obviously, that was not. It was the same thing with Battlestar Galactica, one of my favorite shows. I really liked the ending. Some people never stop bitching about it. I'm like, it was a story that had an ending and it was over.
Same with Lost, right?
Yeah,
exactly. And Lost was a victim of like the writer's strike, so that kind of screwed things up, completely. But we are hearing though, that we had heard lots of rumblings about other prequels. Apparently, they did develop a couple others, but they didn't. They fell to the wayside, including one with Naomi Watts, but just did not work out. So we'll see how this is going. But we do know this is coming in 2022. When in 2022, we don't know.
Well, but again, it's October now, so 2022 could be 3 months from now. We have no idea, so it's okay. So, Todd, I have a bone to pick with you on this next article, which I will take.
Oh,
you are forever banned from using Cord Cutter News as a web source. I know. That
do you have another one?
I know it doesn't. I'm giving you shit right now, but Todd, I know of your love of the Cord Cutters group, but they cannot be considered a reputable source for our show.
Well, these are the news people from it. The people on the group are these basically clueless adults that will complain about paying for streaming.
I'm just trying to tell you that this is I'm putting a forever ban on this as a news source. It's not allowed. I allow IGN. I can't allow this. I have to.
Okay, is there a better news source for this story, Charlie?
I stick to my basic news sites is I stick with the comic book oh my god, I can't remember the name of the ones. Comic book movie news. I like Screen Rant and I like Bleeding Cool. So
okay, I found a link and I will share it from sci-fi-wire.com.
It doesn't matter. I'm largely.
Well, this one has more meat on the bone, anyways. Charlie, this one has more meat on the bone, anyways, so it works well. So let me update the link, and you can.
We all learned a lesson, but I'm largely giving you because your posts in that group just crack me up sideways.
I love them. Yes,
it always tends to show up in my feed that I'm like, oh, there's Todd talking to those cord cutters again. It's like, when will he learn? When will he?
Streaming is more expensive than cable, Charlie. Won't you ever learn?
Oh my God.
Yes. Yeah. All so right. Here you go. Better link, Charlie, from Sci-Fi Wire.
Very good. That makes me very happy. But anyway, we're talking right now about a spinoff of WandaVision. And you guessed it. It was Agatha all along. Yes, Catherine Hahn's wonderful character, which took a big divergence, I think, from the comics, because Agatha Harkness in the comics was the elderly governess who helped raise Franklin Richards.
Was she like the Veronica to Madame Web's Betty?
I think. Oh my God! Why do you think you don't see Archie anymore? Why didn't he
fighting over Otto Octavius?
They probably destroyed his soul to a distant dimension. But anyway, yeah, it's looking like the head writer of WandaVision, Jack Schaefer. Jack Schaefer just sounds like a really skeevy name. Jack Schaefer is going to be piloting a show that's going to be all about delightful Agatha Harkness. And again, you could see this as when we saw the character at the end, she had the memory spell placed on her that she didn't know who she was anymore. So I could see the show very easily taking a tack where she overcomes that, or it's coupled with her origin story back in the 16, back in the Salem witch era back in the day. So anyway, I have always loved Kathryn Hahn. She's fun, she's cute, she's a blast. So I'm really fired up about this. But if this is just announced, I can't imagine we're going to see this until 2023, and kind of in my guess, wouldn't you think? I mean, it's got to be a ways off.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a lot in the, kind of the back burner of shows coming, right. So I don't think they have to rush into it. But I mean, having spinoffs has always been a dangerous affair, right? Do you pick the right character? I mean, you had Joey from Friends, not a good plan. Frasier worked though, which was cool. Right. Mork and Mindy, Laverne and Shirley. What is it? You had the Jeffersons. I mean, sometimes it works.
Right. Yeah, and you're right. You roll the dice, and I guess it depends on not only the popularity of the character, but certainly the supporting cast that would be created to drive it. And again, there would obviously be a new supporting cast to drive this, because it's not going to be the same old cast of the folks in Westview. So it's going to have to be something different.
Yeah, you can't revisit what made WandaVision successful, because it's just copycat. Right. She's a character. She's a larger than life character. So it's like, does a little bit go a long way, or is she enough to carry a show based on her bombacity, I guess is the right word. Maybe not.
You're trying to tell me she's bombastic like Shaggy?
I think so. Yes, Mr. Bombastic, Mr. Fantastic. I could go all day, just like like Shaggy could. But oh well. Okay. Going back to this, I'll be curious to see what they do. I don't necessarily want a prequel, but depending on how they go, we kind of got her prequel, right? She was a witch. All the bad things happened.
Right. Yeah. Little taste, and So yeah. Again, it's
probably enough.
It could end up turning into a little bit how the sausage is made, like Solo, the Han Solo movie.
It's maybe her redemption tale, Charlie, like we got with Loki, kind of in a way. So maybe that's a way to develop that character, and then bring in other elements of like the supernatural and mystic worlds. That could be fun.
Gotcha. Indeed. Well, speaking of things that are new and exciting, which of course that's what we always do, New York Comic Con is wrapping up kind of as we're recording this at the end of the weekend.
I barely knew it was going on, to be honest. There just wasn't a lot of stories.
There weren't a lot of stories, and there wasn't a ton of merch. I didn't even see from the floor. I saw some of the merch kind of skimming through one of the toy sites I follow, but I didn't see a table full of Hasbro stuff unless it got posted today. So, which always kind of bugs me out, because the lines I collect are Hasbro stuff. Or I would love to have seen maybe any early prototypes of the new Playmate Star Trek stuff that we're supposed to get next year. So,
who owns Playmate? I'm just going to ask you, who owns Playmates these days? Are they like their own odd entity? Did they get bought and somebody's using the name?
I don't know. I mean, they're still producing a fair amount of stuff. So that's a little micro research project. How about you look at that while I talk about this? Because I want to know.
Absolutely.
But at any rate, New York Comic Con gave us a trailer for the just 5 weeks away, almost to the day, season 4 premiere of Star Trek Discovery, which we're going to get on November 18. For those who haven't been keeping up, sorry. Discovery took a big old leap into the distant future. They are in the end of the 32nd century, having leapt from the middle of the 23rd century pre-TOS in the first 2 seasons of the show. Now the central character, Michael Burnham, is now the captain of the Discovery, and she has, as of the end of season 3, was tasked with the mission of helping put the United Federation of Planets back together by running around and giving everybody new sources of dilithium, which of course was the big driving force of the season last season. That somewhat prior, there was the burn, all the dilithium exploded. They solved that problem. They found new dilithium. But now, and it was funny, when I was recording Code 47 earlier today with Rich, I said, I can't wait to talk about this with Todd, because what we're seeing out of this trailer is that the big nemesis, Todd, say it with me, it's a space anomaly. It's your favorite.
Anomaly. It's like anomaly. Yeah.
But yeah, we're getting a lot of great returning crew. You're actually also seeing Captain Saru, Doug Jones's character, who left for kind of parts to return to actually his home planet for the first time ever at the end of season 3. But we've got new characters like Blue Del Barrio's Adira. and Gray as Ian Alexander. Or Ian Alexander is Gray, so our LGBTQ characters that we saw interviewed on the panels on Star Trek Day. So yeah, most of the cast coming back. Very exciting. This looks great, but the big controversy today, and you can see it, people are flipping their damn wigs over the fact that there is a Ferengi starship captain pictured in here that does not look like the Ferengi that we know from TNG, DS9, and Star Trek Voyager. To which I say, give me a break, guys. Come on. 1,000 years in the future, this was the debate that Rich and I were having. If you look behind me, this is exactly what I did during our show. There is a map of the United Federation of Planets and surrounding areas. I made reference to the Klingon Empire, which was the source of much fanboy butthurt in season 1 and season 2 of Discovery. The Klingon Empire takes up over a third of this map. It's vast, which means a Klingon who lives on this planet may not very well look like a Klingon who lives over on this planet because it's hundreds of light years different. So guess what? Hundreds of light years plus 1,000 years in time is going to mean your Ferengis look different. Give me a friggin' break. That's all I'm going to say.
I did make a comment. It just seems like weird. Everybody else changes, but humans are essentially non-changing. We look the same, have the same number of fingers, eyes. We did not change or morph. So somebody made a joke because we're perfect. I'm like, you know what? I can't complain. We are pretty perfect.
Yeah, it's especially me. So anyway, I'm fired up about this. We're launching into a great season of friggin' Star Trek in the next year. This show is going to run side by side with the kid-themed Star Trek Prodigy, which starts on October 28th. When this show wraps up in February, we're getting Star Trek Picard Season 2, which already looks amazing. And then my finely honed Star Trek senses tell me that following the end of Picard, we will have Strange New Worlds because it has been teased for 2022. So as I have said time and time again, we are entering a second golden age, kind of an embarrassment of riches of Star Trek. And it's a great time to be a content creator around Star Trek. So I'm really fired up about that. So bing, bang, boom. Todd, what did you think of the trailer?
Anomaly. Like you said, that was like, oh, jeez.
But again, it could very easily be an egg MacGuffin. There's no doubt.
Absolutely. Could be what they're giving us now versus what it becomes at the end game. Right, so it totally makes sense. I am curious, though. Every season of Star Trek Discovery has been kind of like reset kind of the status quo. Right. It hasn't been one-offs. It's been primarily a long story arc. So that works after time. But I mean, can you continue at that pace? Because it seems like, wow, how do you outdo yourself? Or is it going to be, we're going to settle into this time era and we're going to have one-offs. We're going to do more of that fun, but maybe we have a mini arc in the middle, which is cool. Well, like Next Generation had a couple cliffhangers, things like that.
A great example of what you're talking about that unfortunately did not maintain its high level quality was, and I speak for Rich as well, but was the TV show 24, which was in the early 2000s. My God, what a great concept. Every episode of the show takes place in real time. So a 24-hour day is 24 episodes. Season 1, dynamite. Season 2, dynamite. Season 3, cracks are starting to show because things have to get a little bit more ridiculous. You got to get a lot of red herring, weird plot threads that go nowhere. Season 4, bounce back. Season 5, strong. Season 6, no. 7, 8, 9, explosion. So can a breakneck pace be sustained forever? Can a gimmick be sustained forever? No, it really can't. So you're right. So it does have to maintain some type of, what's one of my favorite expressions in life? Trust is oh my God, I'm drawing a blank. What do they say about trust? Trust is consistency. Consistency.
Oh, I was going to say trust but verify.
Yes, stop, drop, and roll. Trust is consistency over time. So you're right. Is it a great show? Will it continue to be great? It can't always be the same breakneck, like bang, bang, bang. Yeah, it's got to settle into some kind of groove. So yeah, I hope that it's not like now our next time jump is we're going 1,000,000 years into the future, or we're
going back again. We're going to do a circle. Make it the circle of life.
I think that would be absolutely dreadful. To
so one last thought before we move on. Is it just getting a little bit like to be just a joke, that it's like, yep, we're gonna do exactly what we've been told not to do because I'm a maverick.
Well,
it's like a bad joke, right? At this point,
kind of, sort of, but you do have to now consider that because she's captain, she's held to a little bit different standard. That was always what made the character such a rogue maverick, is that, well, I'm the first officer, or I'm only the science officer, or in the first season she's like, I'm a nobody, I'm an ex-con, so I can do whatever the hell I want.
Absolutely.
But now she's the captain, and it's been said by many characters, sitting in the chair, being a Starfleet captain myself of the USS Grand Petoskey, our fan club chapter. When you sit in the big chair, things look different. So yeah, is she likely to be such a cow? I don't want to say cowboy, cowgirl, cow person, whatever it is that you
maverick.
Call it. Is she likely to be such a maverick? You mean just like
Tom Cruise,
just like James Garner, who on the Rockford Files, that was one of your dad's favorite shows. I remember that.
Absolutely, yeah.
But yeah, we'll see. But what probably will be equally mavericky, but in a different way, is our next story, which also, I know we're going a little Star Trek-y on this, which I can't get enough. Star Trek Prodigy, which I mentioned, it's going to be on Nickelodeon, available through Paramount Plus. It was revealed that Robert Beltran will be returning as Captain Chakotay. I love Chakotay from Voyager. He was one of my favorite characters. A lot of people have a lot of different feelings about him. He's kind of my dude, so I'm kind of fired up about that. But that's cool, and it's great to have a returning character to be somebody that, if this is a two-part story, or a two-pronged approach, because really the Protostar, which is the ship from Prodigy, is a Starfleet vessel that's stumbled upon in the Delta Quadrant by some wacky alien kids, and they've got to figure out how to drive it. And there's a hologram. Todd, this would drive you nuts. A hologram of Catherine Janeway, which is Todd's worst nightmare. I could just imagine Todd somewhere with Catherine Janeway chirping in his ear. Todd, I think you'd flip out.
I'm perfectly fine with Captain Janeway. I didn't mind her. I just made jokes about her being like Katharine Hepburn, and I just thought Voyager itself was just it is what it is. But I thought her as a character, I'm cool with this. It's kind of neat because she's a hologram instructor, right?
She's essentially like the Doctor from Star Trek, is that she's there to be a supplement to a captain or command staff to give them advice. In a lot of different ways. Oh, did I just lose you? Oh, you went a little fuzzy. You're back. But anyway, my point is that what I think, to not bury the lead, what's exciting about this announcement is that joining the voice cast are three huge names: Jason Alexander, Jamil Jamil, and Daveed Diggs. Okay, now all those names. Daveed Diggs was in Hamilton. He was one of the stars, I think. Was he George Washington?
No, he was not George. George Washington was a white dude. He played one of the other characters. I can't remember who it was. Yeah,
but he had one of the hugest. Jamila Jamil, who was gorgeous, by the way, was in The Good Place. And then Jason Alexander, my God, he's George Costanza, and actually has his own Trek pedigree. He did guest as a villain in an episode of Voyager, so that kind of brings it back as well. But
he would have made a great Harry Mudd, by the way.
Oh, I totally agree. I think kind of too old for their purposes, but
sure.
Yeah.
Well, in this case, yeah.
But I love this. They're getting, and I think I grabbed a weird link because the other one. Oh no, it does give it. Yeah. So Diggs playing an enduring character named Commander Tysus. So he's Starfleet. Chakotay is Beltran. He's the captain. Jamila Jamil is a Trill ensign, which I think is awesome. And Jason Alexander is the voice of a Tellarite doctor. So all three of them sound like they're Starfleet. So probably part of Chakotay's crew. So this is awesome. I'm like super fired up about this. When you're bringing name talent to canonical Star Trek, and bringing back Chakotay, who's a character I dig on. I feel like New York Comic Con was all about Star Trek, and that really works for me. So I'm down.
Very, very cool. Yeah, neat to see this. It looks like it's still going to be on Nickelodeon and Paramount Plus, so it's kind of like that, which is a good idea. It's just good to have that show for a younger audience there, because kids are not just regularly turning into Paramount Plus unless their parents have it by some means. So this is a good way to hit multiple audiences. So I like that. Very cool. Charlie, when it comes to Playmates, it's funny. I went to their website, did not find a lot of their, I was trying to look up a lot of their history. They didn't talk about, they have some proprietary brands, which is interesting. But they don't give a lot of great information about their history, which is just weird. Usually you go to Wikipedia, it'll give you like, but they were established in 1966. They don't say that they actually have ever been bought or sold. They've actually used a lot of licenses, but when you go to their webpage, currently Star Trek is not one of their licenses, which is interesting.
Oh, they do have it. Yeah, no, you're right. I went right to the history tab on.
It's very weird.
And
yeah,
so they started out making dolls, just dolls, the Shirley doll, and then it looks like some little kid stuff like little barnyard toys. Then it jumps right into the Ninja Turtles. There's the Star Trek stuff, and oh god, they made the Simpsons toys. I sold a huge collection of those for an associate of mine a couple of years ago. They really went all out, and they had the absolutely horrible 2009 Star Trek line. Boo. But they were. I mean, it was huge news a few months ago that Playmate had that license. So it's funny that you're not seeing a little bit more about it.
Yeah, well, maybe it's too early on. They have nothing. They don't want to show their hand. But yeah, there's usually probably a news announcement, and then they typically will talk about kind of their plans. But yeah, I hope something good comes about because that series is just. I mean, now that they've got so much momentum behind it, it makes no sense not to have a lot of cool merchandise.
No doubt about it. All right, take us home with the trails of what I ordinarily would think sounds like a wonderful place to visit, but it turns out that's really not the case. So go ahead.
Take me down to Raccoon City where the girls are sweet and the zombies
are
not so pretty. So we are getting Resident Evil, which you may remember from video games, animated things, and Mila Jovovich in that horrible franchise that came out before, is actually getting a new adaptation. This is from Screen Gems, which I believe is one of Sony's it's one of their genre publishers, kind of like Touchstone for Disney. So they are making this movie, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City. It's November 24th, and it's going to be in theaters because Sony still doesn't have a streaming service. They have some deals with Netflix, but Netflix doesn't have a deal for movies to go straight to Netflix unless they own the property. So this is going to be in theaters first, may come to Netflix later. But basically in this film, which is starring Kea Scodelario, Hannah John Kamen, Robbie Amell, Tom Hopper, Avon Gogia, Donald Logue, nice, and Neil McDonough. So not a bad cast. Some names, but nobody big. Yeah, and I love Donald Logue. He's fantastic too. Just a great he looks very Irish, so you bring him in because, you want a guy who looks Irish because why not? We'll see how it goes. But basically, Resident Evil is on fire in the video games world. It's really kind of come about to just really be reinvent itself, which has been great. They've done remakes, which is, we think of remasters and things like that, where they've said, we're just going to take our property and we're going to make it really unique to keep a lot of the same story beats, but make it completely different, which satisfies, new and old audiences, which hopefully it does. Well, in this case, they're going back to what I would say is probably more part of the real franchise, which is basically you've got these cops that are part of the Raccoon City Police Department. They're investigating these bad things going on, and they land in a mansion, and that's when hijinks ensue. The first game was known for horrible dialogue. One character goes, "Oh, you are Jill, the master of unlocking. You almost became a Jill sandwich." Just really bad dialogue in 1997. Yeah, so not great. So I'm sure they'll play off of that a little bit, but this looks like it's going to be a combination, a little bit of both a Resident Evil 1, where they go to the mansion, and then Resident Evil 2, where it's hell is broken loose. They're in a city. They have to take down the zombies. And then, of course, you saw Will McDonald, who looks like he's the engineer of the virus and everything like that, probably to save his daughter, right? That's how it always happens, Charlie. Whatever they do, create a virus because that'll save your kid. No, it won't. It will make everybody die.
Really? That doesn't always not work out?
Well, we have our corona vaccine, so maybe we'll see if it turns out better, hopefully for us.
If you like pina corona, and getting caught with some pain.
Yeah, I mean, but they've got some touchstones in this. They show this dog that's very iconic for the game, and where you get the poo scared out of you, where the dog jumped through the windows. You see your first zombie who's attacking someone in the mansion. He turns around. Just a very iconic part of that game. So they're capturing that. So I think hopefully they nail it for fans, and it's good. And this is coming out. When was it? I said November. Is this Thanksgiving weekend?
Oh, really?
November 24th. So that's kind of a hard one. A horror movie over Thanksgiving. Maybe it works. I don't know.
You know what is, and again, it's. I'm sure it's very niche, like a lot of horror is. So it's going to work for people who who dig on the name recognition. Would be my vibe. So we will find out. I got this pesky kitty who wants to be on the show. You stop, you silly little butt. Literally, sorry. You know how it is with cats. So anyway,
yes.
Well, cool.
Segue.
While we're not talking about cat butts. We will instead page ourselves an Uber. We're going to check out of this joint, get away from Madam Web and get over to where the action is really happening, the not hoppiness club in town. That would be the Geek Easy. So let's do it.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting the Geek Easy, cover band is playing, and drinks have been poured as we get ready to get our nerd on this week. So I will kick it off because we're going to kind of share a bunch of stuff this week, which is kind of cool.
Yes,
I was telling Charlie.
I don't think we've shared this much before. It's pretty cool.
No. I this is the first time I've seen 4 movies in 48 hours. Right. It's a new record for me, which normally doesn't happen, but I had Friday off and things were going on, so it just worked out pretty well. So, which was fun.
What was the 4th movie?
Well, I'll go into that, Charlie.
Well, I was looking at the list. It's not on the list.
Well, because the last movie we're going to talk about in the Thunderdome was one of those movies.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. Very good. Execute.
Yes. So first, I'm going to kick it off on StarGirl. Continuing to watch the show. I'm completely caught up. This is season 2. And this season does feel like the Empire Strikes Back. It's really gone dark. It's really... the team is in a bad spot. I mean, it's basically they're trying to tear the team apart because they brought in Eclipso, and Eclipso is this dark force which essentially brings out the worst, can manipulate, can do all these things to the heroes, and they're doing a really good job of talking about how the JSA originally defeated Eclipso, but he's come back. And so you've had some flashbacks. Joel McHale has come back as Starman, which has been kind of cool. And just you're learning more about these characters and the JSA proper. And along the way, we've got our team that's kind of just frayed apart and a lot of mistrust, things like that. And we have thoughts that we're going to get some new characters. Green Lantern was introduced at the beginning of the season, which was really cool. I think she's going to finally come back, which is very fun. The character of Jade, which is the daughter of Alan Scott, who was the original Green Lantern.
So, yeah, I thought he was gay. Not in this show.
They go around with it to basically say he came out years later. So basically, like a guy who,
okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Totally cool. Also, his son was Obsidian.
Not Jade like David Caruso.
No, not that movie. No, so it's very good, and I think we're getting 3 more episodes before the season wraps up. They're calling this season Summer School because the kids had to go to summer school, which is very good. It's very fun. It's on the CW app if you want to watch it. Also goes to I'm trying to remember. Does this one then go to? I think it'll go to HBO Max once the season's wrapped. Is Wackly because season 1 is already on HBO Max. I think that's the agreement they have. So very fun, very lighthearted. I liked all the characters. It's very fun. They actually introduced a character that was just goofy, voiced by Jim Gaffigan, which I thought was neat and fun.
I love Jim Gaffigan. Hot pockets.
Absolutely. So check out StarGirl. I recommend it for everybody that like maybe is really soured on the CW. This was a show for DC Universe before it became a CW show. So it's a different mindset, different ideas, but I think they are planning for everything to cross over. We had Jay Garrick teased in this last episode. So they're bringing kind of everything together, which I really enjoy. Very fun. So check out StarGirl.
Very good.
Yes. So then we're going to go into kind of companion movies, and we'll get into this really quickly. Spectre. I finally watched Spectre because I had not seen it before. I'd seen all the other Daniel Craig movies, and I just felt like, okay, I've got to watch this because I'm seeing No Time to Die the next day. I'm like, okay, let's get through this. Let's go to town.
I feel bad because I didn't even realize this because of my mom. I own it, so I don't know if you rented it or did you find it at the library?
I rented it. I got it for cheap.
You spent money. Okay.
Well, no, but that's fine. But I wanted to watch it in 4K UHD. I wanted to watch it the best way my TV can show me. So if I'm going to rent a movie from now on, I'm going to watch it in 4K. I've got a 4K TV. It's the closest thing to watching a movie in your house is the beautiful screen. So I think it's just silly. 1080p is not what your TV can put out there. It's better. It's not as good as what your movie. And if you're seeing it at home, why not watch it the best way you can? So totally get it.
You know what we do to get around it? We turn all the lights off. Feels like we're at the movies. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's fine, but it doesn't change how the picture looks. But oh well, we'll move on. Yeah, yes, exactly. Does. Yeah, exactly. So I watched it. The sound was wonderful. Actually, I had some headphones I used that were like Dolby Atmos headphones. Very cool. Makes it very nice. Doesn't disturb the family. Very cool. But I also have a new sound system, the same thing. But, you know, when you're blasting that through the house, it kind of annoys people. So it was what it was. But yeah, Spectre, this is the fourth movie. We were introduced with Christoph Waltz as the head of Spectre, which a little flim flam involved. You find out actually he and James were kind of had the same father figure. And there was a lot of jealousy along that line. So he actually ended up changing his name to Hans Blofeld, whatever his name was. It was Blofeld.
Right. It was Ernst Fragen, or there was Ernst in there for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, yeah.
And I should have rewatched this before I saw No Time to Die, because I didn't even really realize that this film really informed upon No Time to Die.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the main Bond girl was Maudlin, as they called her. She was a daughter of Spectre.
She was so Maudlin.
Absolutely, she was a daughter of Spectre. So a lot of going around, and they eventually, her and Bond really connected and everything like that. But that kind of leads us to the end of the movie. Yeah, I mean, that was it was a fun movie, not a great movie, but once again. It was interesting watching the opening credits, Charlie. All of the octopuses and everything for Spectre, and the song by Sam Simon.
Sam, not simple. No, Sam. Oh shit! It is
not
Sam.
Shepard. Is it not Sam? Sam.
Not Sam the Sham.
Not Sam Simon.
I know who he is, and he's
Sam Smith. Sam Smith.
There you go.
Yeah, Stand By Me. I think it was not Stand By Me. Stay With Me was his song. There you go. So, but his like the theme and the opening with Bond just showing him his chest, and it's just like, wow, that's such a throwback, and they still do it every episode or every movie.
Right.
They do the opening credits,
the long animation. Yeah, exactly.
Yep, and then they do the opening, like the one setting piece where it's a 15-minute just opening to show you who James Bond is, and they go into it. So not much has changed. It's more of a dour film, but it actually has a positive ending. So there we go. So I would say it got kind of a bad rep, kind of along with Quantum of Solace, where like those are the two that are kind of like the even films are not looked upon as the good ones, which is funny.
The in-betweeners, yeah, exactly. So
absolutely, yeah. That took us through there. So I wanted to catch up. So yeah, I liked it, but it wasn't one of the best. So I did enjoy Spectre.
And again, we actually just watched Casino Royale last night and this morning, because we're kind of on a kick, because Casino and Quantum of Solace are on Prime. The Skyfall and Spectre, we own them in our library, so we're intending to go through. But No Time to Die is the new hotness. It's what's front and center. So does pick up in 2015, which is when Spectre is set. I didn't realize it was so damn long ago that movie came out, because I know we saw it in the theater. But again, I probably would have benefited from a rewatch, because I didn't really remember much of anything other than obviously Christoph Waltz is Blofeld, and Blofeld is obviously Bond's greatest nemesis. And I knew there was a familial connection tied in somewhere. But anyway, yeah, we pick up with Spectre still trying to track Bond down, and Maudlin, and he escapes and puts her on a train and says, "You'll never see me again." And then 5 years go by, and we're in the present, and Bond has retired, and he's living the good life down, and he's either in Jamaica or Grenada or somewhere where he can take a shower outside, and he can fish with a harpoon or whatever. And
Dominican Republic, why not?
Yeah, he gets sucked back in to the whole Spectre thing. Yes, there is now a genetically modified virus that's making the rounds. It actually, we found out our big bad guy is Freddie Mercury. So Rami Malek, who is, do we ever really find out why his face was so jacked up?
It was the poison that the whatever that his family was killed with.
Yes. So yeah, Rami Malek is the villain whose name I forget. His mission is to not only kill off all of Spectre, but then to kill Bond as well, because reasons. And so yeah, it's a life or death struggle where even though Maudlin has been out of James's life, he ends up bringing her back. We meet a new 007 who's Nomi or Naomi or something is her real name, where they have to spar, and everything ends in this island that is located between Japan and Russia. And I won't spoil the ending, because that would be wrong.
After the first week, yes, I would say it's maybe we'll revisit on a future show. But I mean, this movie it's the first time Bond has ever had like a long story arc. I think the only other time we got that was Timothy Dalton. What's his name? After Timothy Dalton. Sorry. Yes, Timothy Dalton. He did there was like 2 movies that overlapped where I believe it was the love of his life got killed, so it was kind of like a revenge tale. I can't remember what the movie was called, but that's kind of the only time they've done it. But this was a 5-movie arc that told kind of the beginning and the end, or the end of this Bond's tale. So, and it does no spoilers, but at the end it says Bond will return. So we are going to get more Bond films. So this is not the end of the franchise. Amazon wouldn't have spent all that money if they said we're done.
Yeah, we are all set. A franchise that I think would be super great if it did end. And Todd, you did actually finally.
But I do want to say one thing before. The highlight of this film, by all means, was Ana de Armas. Holy cow! She was the American spy for the CIA. She is phenomenal. Just she's quirky and funny, and she looks believable. She does all of the stunts.
Sweet, merciful things I won't say. My God.
She was phenomenal, beautiful and dangerous, and just she didn't overstay her welcome. She was there, and I hope she returns because that would be awesome.
But I did read a subsequent article that they're not going to cram in spinoffs, which is good because I do not.
Oh yeah, remember like when the Halle Berry character like Jinx from was it The Living Daylights was like she's going to get her own spinoff. Nope, didn't happen.
It was Catwoman. But anyway, we'll do this one a little quicker because I talked quite a bit about it last week. Was it last week?
You did, yes.
Venom 2. You went and go to see Venom 2. So yeah, Todd, how do you feel about Venom 2?
I feel about the same as I saw with Venom 1. So it was more Venom. So once again, I don't think this was worse than last movie. It was about the same. These actors were chewing the scenery. It's a B film. Nothing more so than that. It was goofy. It was dumb. But it was still entertaining and fun. So I think people are looking for more in this movie than they're ever going to get. And this movie outdid the last movie. So apparently it's what people want with Venom. And like I said, this will not be the last time we get this take with Venom. We're going to get another take. We already had Venom Topher Venom, Tophenum, whatever we call him.
Venom Grace.
Absolutely. So we're going to get another take on Venom in the future. And of course, I don't know. Can we spoil this now, Charlie? The end of Venom?
I think so.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, so the end of this movie, I stayed for it. I mean, let's just put it this way. Venom's on the run at the end of the movie. He goes to the Caribbean, I think, to hang out with James Bond. I think, maybe.
Right. You think they were drinking? Yeah. That's why he was in bed, because he was all drank out?
Probably. And then he and Venom are talking, and he says, well, let me show you really all about my people and things like that.
I know, but let me sing the song of my people. That always sounds like it's, that was a meme a little while ago. It's let me sing you the song of my people, and it was a smoke detector.
Yes, yep, absolutely. So we got essentially when that was happening, there was a blip, and Charlie. Right. We are now in the Marvel multiverse.
MCU. Yes, we're now in the MCU where he is watching J. Jonah Jameson reveal Peter Parker's identity, which happened, of course, at the end of Spider-Man Far From Home. So, yeah, what does this mean? We will find out potentially somehow tied into Spider-Man No Way Home. No Way Home? That's happened there?
No Way Home, correct. No Way Home, yeah. Yeah, and it's funny because apparently the director of the film, Andy Serkis, said, I don't know where this is going. This was my opportunity to bring us into, which was pretty easy to do. I mean, all they did was show a TV. So not a big deal. Right. But it is kind of funny because at the end of the movie, they said we're going to be lethal protectors. In this, in what they showed, Spider-Man is the bad guy. So that would lead you to think we need to take down Spider-Man.
Why not? All right, finally, let's take this home by talking about the conclusion of the first Marvel animated program that's been part of the Disney Plus universe. The What If wrapped up with episode 8. I know we can never keep this straight.
9, apparently. I think it was 9. Yeah, it was 9.
Well, what's funny is that this episode actually alludes to an unproduced episode where you saw Tony Stark as part of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, I saw that.
Because
yeah, the Hulkbuster uniform. Yeah,
I had to say that to April. I'm like, did we miss one? So
No.
I'm sure we didn't miss one, but yeah, because that what the Watcher has to do, breaking his oath again, because that's what I saw some article reference.
That's what he does.
There's like hundreds of occasions where he's broken his oath, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, he figures out that to take down the Ultron Vision Infinity Stone monster that was kicking his ass at the end of the last episode, he's got to put together a Guardians of the Multiverse. So that's Peggy Carter. That's ScarJo from the previous episode. That's Star-Lord T'Challa. That's Superbad Killmonger. That's a certain type of Gamora from the episode we didn't see.
Surfer Dude Thor.
Surfer Dude Thor, yes, from a couple episodes back where he's all comical and shit. And yeah, this.
Oh no, Charlie! I've got his name.
What is
Pauly
it?
Thor. Pauly Thor.
He totally was Pauly Thor. He did not talk about nugs or grindage or tweaking, but the essence was there.
We just haven't seen that part.
Love it. Yeah, exactly. It could be in season 2. So anyway, I thought this was a great send off. They really slugged it out. They blew a bunch of stuff up. Arnim Zola got to be the chess TV at last because the USB arrow at the end got shot into Ultron Vision's eyeball hole and corrupted him. The Dark Doctor Strange was the last member of the team. He was the one who was able to contain Arnim Zola and the Ultron Vision in a pocket dimension, and it was his job to look over it. So he's truly the guardian of the multiverse. Great ending, and it's kind of fun. Everybody goes back to where they're supposed to be. So even Peggy goes back to obviously her own time instead of having her reunion with Steve, which is what Steve did in the MCU timeline. But we see that that ScarJo from prior Ultron episode actually gets dumped back into the universe where Hank Pym killed all the Avengers, and there was still an overload, and so she gets to be the widow in that universe where there's only 3 Avengers. There's her, Captain America, and Captain Marvel. But yeah, and Nick Fury. So cool send off. I didn't necessarily felt like this was like, oh, this was leaning so hard on a season 2, because again, there is and isn't continuity with What If. That's the purpose of What If, is there's no hard and fast anything, because it's like, here's a reality different than the one that and now it came to this point and we're not going to go back there again. And it's fine, because it's still told a story that you're not like, but I gotta know this and that. You might find out what happens, you might not find out what happens, or they could simply just continue to move the things forward. Could this be, here's a question for you, could this be an occasion where they maybe start to weave in former Fox characters?
I think it's possible. Yeah, because we don't know.
Because it could be essentially cheaper and easier than waiting 3 to 5 years for a Fantastic Four movie or an X-Men movie. It could be, what if the Hulk died and it's he was killed by Wolverine, and then they've got a Wolverine character. I don't know. Or maybe that would be too confusing. I'm not sure.
It could be hard. I mean, and then they may say, well, we don't want an animated special on Disney Plus to be the way we introduce the X-Men or the Fantastic Four. I don't know. But obviously we're getting the Eternals next. They could be brought in. Right. So everything they do in the future still can be brought in. I don't know. At the end, I kind of felt like a little fatigued with some of these characters. I'm like, and they kind of did a lot what we expected them to do. So, and after coming off of Infinity, Endgame and things like that, I'm like, feel like we just did that a couple of years ago, which we did. So I'm like
it was shutting down that. Well, because
it's too soon. I think. I don't know.
Well, I mean, maybe for you and for me and people who are steeped in the lore, but for people who are, I mean, this series was made for people who love the MCU. It's tailor made for people who are not necessarily like you and me, who have been doing this since we were 10 years old, but people who have been doing it for the last 10 years and watching these movies. And now, so for them to be like, oh, the Infinity Stones.
I'm nostalgic. I'm nostalgic. It's been 3 years, which is just silly.
Well, you're absolutely right. Yeah, exactly. It's or it's just, it's comfort food. It's familiar. It's like, oh, they're revisiting a storyline that I feel like I can wrap my arms around. It's not all comic-y where it's like, what if the Fantastic Four's rocket landed in the ocean or some shit? And that happened back in 1961. So I get where you're coming from, but I think potentially to look at it through the lens of John Q. Public, who saw the Avengers back in 2012, and it was like, oh, it's the biggest thing of all time. And then Endgame was the biggest film of all time, because you had this audience that had been along for that ride from 2008 all the way up to 2019 or to the present day. that's more invested in that journey as opposed to you and I going back to 1985. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So
yeah, I guess
I got you.
I guess what I don't want is Disney, Marvel only being MCU things.
Agreed. Yes. Yeah.
I just want this version of. I want to have them to do really fun stuff, different things, bring them in, and that's where I felt like the What If was still just MCU. So I'm like, okay, but it's so fresh. It's like maybe they could have done some really cool different things here versus just tweak and do that. Versus let's wait and revisit these characters in 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So it feels like, oh, we can then see these characters because all the characters now moved on. We won't get them, and we can still use their images, right? Because Disney owns them now.
Right. Yes. They now own Chris Evans' face for the rest of time. Sorry, Chris Evans. You have no face.
Absolutely. We own your face. Thank you for sharing. And we are getting a second season, maybe more than that. And they did have a stinger at the end of the episode. Did you watch the stinger, Charlie?
Oh my God. Did I not see it? What is
You didn't see the stinger? Oh, no. I won't spoil it then.
No, maybe I did. Go ahead. What was it?
Do you want me? Okay, I will. You've been warned, everyone. Spoilers. Scarlet Witch takes Peggy Carter to a container.
Oh,
at the end of the episode, and we get to see the Hydra Stomper. And that's not the only thing that's in the Hydra Stomper, as I will say, if you did not watch it.
Really? And that was after the what the shit?
Yes, I just scroll a little bit more to watch it, but so that then opens the door.
I will do it. Okay, I'll do it immediately after this. I'll get the wife down here, and we'll scroll forward to the end of the episode and watch again. But I had seen nothing about that on social media.
I just watched by my normal behavior is stay to it or look up, is there a stinger? And I didn't even look. I just scrolled and I'm like, yep, there's something happening. I'm going to watch.
I am flabbergasted.
You've been scooped.
I've been extradited. Okay, well, we'll take.
You've been extradited.
I've been extradited to another country. All right. Yes. Well, let's take my shock and awe the hell out of here. We're going to get on a plane to the land down under, to the Thunderdome, to amuse the mutants with week 3 of Shocktober. Let's go.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome.
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants have been gathered for a topic or game to be entertained. And it is now week 3 of Shocktober. Oh my God. October is like more than halfway done. How did this happen?
Just the moon rotates around the sun. No, okay, that's not right. The Earth spins. There's some stuff that happens in space.
It happens, yeah. And apparently, like daylight savings time is not until like November 7th, which is just crazy. It's like that's like the longest it's been. Yeah, it's crazy. Oh well. Enough about the lunar cycles of the world. This was my pick this week. We picked The Final Girls from 2015. This is a movie that's been on my radar for a long time, but it's never been on a streaming service. It was like you had to pay $20 or whatever to watch. I'm like, okay.
No way.
Yeah. It was like forever. It wasn't on a streaming service. You had to rent it or buy it. So, and I'm like, okay, let me just see if it's out. And it is. So The Final Girls is out. It's on Hulu now. If you guys want to watch, stop now, watch the movie and come back and listen. But at this point, I will tell you a little premise of the movie. A young woman grieving the loss of her mother, a famous scream queen from the 1980s, finds herself pulled into the world of her mom's most famous movie. Reunited, the woman must fight off the film's maniacal killer. This movie was absolutely no. Directed by Todd Strauss-Schussen. Don't know who he is. Written by M. Fortin and Joshua John Miller. Starring Tyson Farmiga, Malin Ackerman, Adam Devine, Thomas Middleditch, Ali Shawkat, Alexander Ludwig, and Nina Dobrev. A budget
cast. I loved it.
Oh yeah, budget of $4.5 million, which they did a lot with their budget because it did not look like a $4 million film.
Right. It did not. No.
No. So this was a movie I'd always, like I said, always been curious about, and I'm like, this feels like a movie that should have been on more people's radar, wasn't. And man, oh man, I am so happy I saw this film. So good.
And again, I was going into, you and I had been doing a bit of back and forth, and you said, we'll pick something off this list, and I picked something that we were going to do next week that was that nobody's at home or somebody's at home, and you're like, oh dude, it's stinking. And in my mind, I had it flipped around thinking you were talking about This movie, I'm like, oh, Oxford's got me watching this steaming pile of shit. And this thing was fantastic. So I'm glad that I had this misnomer that I misunderstood, because this was a ton of fun. What a great cast. I've always been a little weird about Malin Ackerman, because her first movie was that Ben Stiller vehicle called The Heartbreak Kid, where she has to piss on, she has to pee on him because he gets stung by it. He got stung by
that's a jellyfish.
Yeah, and I can't ever divorce myself from that image. So I've never been a huge fan, but I do like Tacita Farmiga, because I like the family. I like her. And it's weird. Did you know that Verna Farmiga is not her mother, it's her older sister?
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. Yeah,
so weird, because
it is, because it seems like there's a big seems like there's a bigger age gap than that. Yeah,
right.
But yeah,
and then Adam Devine, who is always just stupid, ridiculous fun and everything. And then you had just a lot of the, hey, it's that guy. And then Nina Dobrev was on the Vampire Diaries, which I unfortunately watched an episode or two because a friend recommended it once upon a time. But they were all fun. And Thomas Middleditch, who was on Silicon Valley, which is a show that April and I love. So you had a solid cast going in. I love the premise. Obviously, you got a young lady that her mom is kind of a washed up actress. She died. She ends up dying in a terrible car crash. 6 months later, they go to see a revival of one of her films, which is a slasher movie from the early 1980s, as you were saying. And there is a fire in the theater, which magically transports them into the world of the film, which every 92 minutes it reboots, no matter what they do. So it's like they spend the first couple plays of it just sitting and watching the slam van drive by with the dumb teens on their way to they have the oversexed girl and the oversexed boy and the virgin, and they all need to find a way. It's kind of there was an episode of Star Trek that had a quasi similar plot line where they were stuck in a book. It was Riker and Worf and Data. They were stuck in a book. They couldn't escape the setting of the book until they saw the plot line through, and then whatever the thing is would release them. So this kind of had shades of that, but it was obviously a lot grittier. Because the only thing that could have made it grittier is if Gritty was in it. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Oh, Gritty, yeah. He actually was the serial killer. Sorry, spoiler, guys. No.
Well, sorry for everybody in Philadelphia, Pittsburgh who probably want to stab us, because Gritty is God.
He is a patron saint, yes, of hockey. Yeah. So I will say the premise is very fun. The use of a trope of going into something like was it Pleasantville, very similar to that. But the way they use the medium, the tropes, they obviously knew it. Kind of reminded me of Scream, how the one guy says, they had a guide essentially who was a movie buff who knew all about these films, so he knew what everyone was going to say and could kind of play it out, knew how many minutes to wait for something to happen. The use of the flashback was really cool and unique and very interesting. Remember when they the things would come down, Charlie, almost like it was like like a water. I don't know what it was, but it was very cool. Changed the look of it. And the way that the characters then pivoted and used all of those things to their advantage, which I thought was neat. It was just like, yeah, we know this premise. We're buying into it. What do we have to do to survive? And all these different things, the way they played out was very cool. Like, if you remember the very end of the movie, when you got to the end of the film reel, which I thought was fun, it's like, oh, this is different too. It's like, where are we at? What's happening? I don't know. And there was a lot of just unique and innovative things. And even when they thought they had figured it out, they didn't, which I thought was cool too. It's like, twist? Interesting. Okay.
Twist?
Yeah, so and I will say that the one of my favorite parts of this movie was the fact that we don't get this a lot, was a character obviously spending time with her mother, and it was very heart-touching. That whole relationship, building that moment where she could spend with her mom, and there was just a lot of heartfelt moments between those two characters. And I really liked that a lot. I really thought it was neat. A lot of self-awareness in a lot of the characters, like the one girl, I think it's Nina Dobrev, who says, I'm the bad girl, so my time is probably well past what it should be, meaning she should be dead by now. Just really good. And I loved the one character. I can't remember what her name was. The one, the the sexy one who tried to strip. That was awesome. I loved it when she took the Ritalin. Perfect. She was so crazy playing to Cherry Pie. What could be better?
Right. Which again, I always love it when a movie set in the 80s gets their 80s wrong. So that song came out in 1989.
90, yeah.
This is in 1986. So yeah, that's a. Anyway, yeah, I totally dug on it. This was fun. This was a good pick. It does goes to show us that we need to exercise a little bit more caution in looking at RT so that we skip the next door house, nobody's home, whatever the thing is. That
Netflix original. It sounds like it's a miss. Yeah. When I looked at that, I'm like, I'd rather not spend my time on something that's not too great. But yeah. So great movie. I think it was just something that, it's one of those could be a cult classic eventually, because I think there's a lot to this movie that I think really sets it apart from others. I mean, there was some gore into it, but nothing like too bad.
Not like some of the stuff we've been watching. Not like the Fear Street or what we watched last week. The
Wicker Man wasn't that bad.
No, not Wicker. The one before that, the Freaky.
Freaky was pretty rough too. Yeah. So. Exactly.
Yeah, Wicker Man. So Wicker Man. I enjoyed the graphic portion of Wicker Man.
There was another part. Yes, that was a different part. Yes, yes, exactly.
For me. So cool. Yeah, I would give this one as far as campy horror movies going. This is like probably like a 7.5 hacksaws out of 10 for me. Definitely.
I'm going higher. I think 8.5 on this one. Love it.
Oh, all right, gotcha. I don't know where you're going to get half a hacksaw, but we'll get it figured out.
I'll use it, and I think one of my favorite parts though, where they're standing in the background and they see the credits rolling. That was funny too. I'm like, very good. Right. Yes, and stay to the end. Stay to the end is all I will say. Anybody watch
Not
this?
Again. I don't even.
Yes, Charlie. Did you not stay to the end of this one?
Son of a bitch. All right.
Sidebar. We'll talk about that after this. So stay to the end, folks. That's all I will say. So that is it, Charlie. So we've got our reviews. Next week will be Halloween Kills in theaters and on Peacock Plus, whatever they call it, to watch.
On Peacock. It's Peacock, baby. Don't you remember Tracy Morgan?
Yes.
It's Peacock, Jenna Baloney. All right, so folks, with that we bring this lovely little program to a close. Thank you as always for joining us. I'm going to tell you as always that sharing is caring, and to keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In the truck.
Nugs grindage, dudes.
Buddy. Woo!
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow @SecretFriendsU on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.